from this very reckless government and the out of control spending, and certainly the politicians that may not be as trustworthy as we would like. And we have had an infrastructure of a party apparatus that also has been hijacked, and the media, obviously around the world, goes right in step with that. So I will share my screen and start the presentation. So what we have, and Dr. Krishnan did a great job of starting off with explaining the difference between the deep state and the shadow government. I'm very grateful, because a lot of people confuse the two and do not understand the separation and the importance of the separation. The shadow government, as we have been discovering, does consist of the billionaires around the world. They are not just U.S. born and bred, and they help dictate to the deep state. The deep state, the government apparatus portion of the deep state, and their vendors, subcontractors, contractors, all take orders. And so we understand this infrastructure now a lot more than we did prior to 2020. We began investigating in 2017 into this infrastructure. And so we understood that there were problems with, at the very bottom level, the NGOs, the political parties. They were doing things not right. We recognized how government was getting more and more out of control. Things didn't seem right, didn't feel right. The reporting on it by the media wasn't right. So we were able to conduct this investigation, and then discovered that our investigations needed to be segmented into different categories, because things were quite out of control by the time 2020 arrived. The election theft investigation was the predominant piece as the end of 2020 neared, and we were able to gain sources and evidence, and did break the news about the use of a military-industrial complex company that is named Leonardo. And our sources from the Italian intelligence side are folks who actually, not everybody wants their countries to fall. Not everybody believes that corruption should exist. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the majority of citizens around the world do not want this. And it is the few that have hijacked by being in the key positions, or leveraging people in the key positions to take over the government. And certainly in Italy and in other countries, in the national security side and intelligence world, there are good guys and bad guys. And the good guys have been meeting in the foreign countries where their countries had already fallen. Prior to the United States fall in 2020 with the election theft with President Donald Trump, that was the final straw that a lot of people felt they needed to be a little more bold and come out and work tirelessly to bring evidence to us. So we are very grateful to our sources around the world. We're very grateful for the ability to expose this to the world. Truth and transparency must prevail. The infrastructure of the shadow government that supersedes and overrides this became very evident in the election theft and the people involved. And then we discovered, sadly, that the very same people that were involved in the election theft, all emulated out of the government, also did the COVID vaccine attack. And we are the organization with the source who came forward, I believe the only source in the world to date, that has said he was actually asked to run the entire COVID and vaccine attack program. So with that, we have been doing extensive research on the individuals, the funding apparatus, the players. We supplied an amicus brief in the Third Circuit courts in the United States that there will be no forced vaccine. Many of those arguments have now been used successfully in New York, where government employees will not have to be forced to take the vaccine. So we've had some major victories as we move forward.
I've got to
now,
mute that
sadly,
part.
the human trafficking element also entered in. $400 million and then some were all being sent over to Iran in Barack Obama's remaining days as president. We believe that this investigation must take place because the movement of the money through Dubai into Italy and then into the Bank of Merrill Lynch in Geneva, Switzerland is so detailed that we were able to determine that banking red flag laws would have been impacted. So our United States congressional members are being asked by our members, and we invite everyone in the world to please ask the congressman to immediately investigate this. We believe that the Federal Reserve should be also receiving inquiries. We want the investigation of all U.S. citizens that were involved in these transactions. The California bank that is, it is stated, had an $8 million allotment, and it might have been 8 million in euros for a former Italian prime minister, Conte, who was the prime minister during the 2020 election. And we were given information that the Italian government would fall, and there was no sign that it was going to occur, and it did. So we knew that the evidence that we were receiving and the actions that were taking place abroad, because we had prior knowledge, we saw actual things occur that validated our sources. We do know that from our investigation, the shadow government has become so capable at weaponizing our bureaucracy, and the reckless spending is catastrophic to citizens here in the United States. People can't afford to own their home. Property taxes are through the roof. We can't afford to do luxurious things, and I can tell you many families are struggling. And we have an extensive budget allotted for Medicaid to assist families because it is so out of control and difficult for businesses to survive, especially since the COVID lockdown. So jobs are hard to come by, and massive layoffs are occurring. And 2023, we expect it to also proceed. We believe that there should be a suspension of funding of the extensive assistance from organizations I say to the world? I think the elephant in the room may be that the United States and the failure of the citizens to keep control on the apparatus, that we may see and find that our United States government was involved in activities that we would find deplorable and unconstitutional, and certainly that some of these rogue employees infiltrated in other countries. The information we received from Italy included that approximately 55 presidential elections around the world were stolen. So it is something that is paramount that America must get a handle on. We also want to have a congressional and FBI investigation into the Obama Foundation based on this information. And we respectfully request that Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, immediately brief America and to brief us continually when he is on by Congress. So as I mentioned, the election theft, we were given information that they used mil-spec software at the Pescara facility of Leonardo. Leonardo is 30 to 33% controlled by the the Italian public. Has ownership of approximately 33%. And so this data thrust and satellite use, it is more than probable cause now. And we have photographs and other evidence that if the American government was working appropriately and the law enforcement agencies were working appropriately, this information would have been provided and moved upon. When we provided some of the information on the Obama movement to Mr. Durham, the special prosecutor, about Russia collusion, the two investigations collided directly, that the very same people involved in Russia collusion hoax were also the same people involved in the election theft. So let's talk solutions, because I don't want to be gloom and doom and that it's over. It will be challenging, but with hard work and faith and prayers, as a global world, not as one nation. But America does have a huge burden to rectify this situation, and certainly our politicians. So the government apparatus has to regain control based upon the United States Constitution. We also present political remedies and political party remedies, as well as media. Those are the four key pinnacles to every civil society. So this will assist others with, and we look forward to continuing to work with them in building this apparatus in their country as well. On the transparent government, we in the state of Georgia was called the Good Government Accountability Act. That model bill is something that we offer to people as a framework of what every government, all the way down basically the gold star pinnacle of whether or not your government is functioning. It should be mandatory throughout the world. Number two, I would say the big piece for us is staying ahead of it, being proactive as a government. What is it that we would like to see? A mandatory employee affidavit and a right to work state where the employee can come and go as they like, and the government can fire them as they like. It's usually 2 weeks in America, but unfortunately in the United States government, it would take at least 6 months and 2 managers to fire one employee.
Wow.
You could literally not show up for
This
work
is a Zoom
for 6
meeting.
months and not get fired. And
This is
the
evidence
taxpayers
of
would
the
be funding
hidden deep state.
it is important that we put a mandatory affidavit program in that requires at every pay period an employee to swear under oath with legal ramifications, including loss of pension and job, and potentially arrest if they lie, but basically a check off box. No, I did not witness any fraud, corruption, or abuse, or yes, I did, and I reported it, or yes, I did, and I have not reported it. And that would go to a 3-level panel for public corruption task force that we would create, that is the federal government, local government, and state government enforcement apparatus, because you have to keep 3 men in the foxhole. You cannot trust that just one person, one agency at this stage, because things are so questionable, that we have to have all three levels engaged and with authority to fully investigate public corruption. Also, the ending of property tax. Many people may not understand the full ramifications of that, but setting people free and stop feeding the beast is imperative in every country. We have put together and designed a program that talks about what the actual cost of collection is of property tax. A lot of people do not look at the implicit and explicit costs, the opportunity costs, the lost opportunity costs. And in America, when
implementing so-called government.
2019,
let me just stop this part. End property tax, full transparency, accountability, report spying on people. This basically is a women campaign in America. I'm on a Zoom meeting.
Certainly the repeal of the Smith-Monk Act and any spying on citizens. So the Five Eyes, the 14 Eyes, the country collaboration. I hope that later we can have Dr. Krishnan actually address the coordination between the CIA and the British intelligence agencies and how deep the those entities would be a really deep discussion, if not today, certainly in the future, because all the world needs to understand agents and exchange information on citizens globally. The intent of the laws is very important. In my 30 years of writing legislation, I can tell you, when you write legislation, bureaucrats like to dictate and shift the intent, and that has been very problematic in the world, and that issue has gotten us into the trouble we're in. Next, trustworthy politicians. This is one of my favorite. We clearly need caucus reforms inside the Democratic Party and the Republican Party caucuses. We also need PAC reforms, political action committees, and donation reforms. We now have legislation that actually a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, approved what was known as Citizens United unlimited spending. So the billionaires were
Mind Control Forum. Let's have a look at that website.
Because they now dictate all the taxes and who will become our next politicians in America. So the trustworthy politicians.
This goes deeper than standard things they're talking about. The speakers in the meeting. Mind control.
So that's what we're looking for in a good trustworthy politician. We are kicking off our performance appraisal with trials. We did our first performance appraisal in the state of Georgia with the Senate president. In that performance appraisal, we reviewed their activities. Did they take priorities that were theirs versus the citizens? Did they follow the Constitution? Did they follow the party rules? And that performance appraisal trial, the individual who was the Senate president was running for lieutenant governor, and he did not win his election for lieutenant governor. So word got out, and I made it very clear to other elected officials in Georgia that we will continue our performance appraisals and trials regardless of party, because if there is corruption, we are coming for them, and we will expose it to the world. So there is no more running and hiding. They think they can get away with not showing up at their parties, and the parties think that they can get away with not really holding them accountable. But wait, we're going to make them accountable. Parties, they have to adhere to the Constitution and their party platform, and they have to give that authority. So we're looking for ballot access reforms. We're asking people across America to join parties across the world, join your parties.
Try again.
And the only thing you have to do is make sure that they do those two things. And you have to honor your Constitution and the intent of it. Most constitutions are great. They don't need to be changed. People want you to open it up. And that is the biggest threat in America today, because America has fallen, and these people who have paid off activists inside the party and in third-party groups have been very involved in trying to open the Constitution so it can be changed. They also do additional amendments to their state constitution to get Americans thinking it's okay to amend constitutions. No, it is not. The United States Constitution has to be hands off forever. It is one of the most brilliant and God-divine programs ever on the face of the earth. So we are not changing our Constitution. It was just brilliantly and divinely provided. So I will tell you that the ballot access reform, in one fell swoop, if you said, Maria, what is it that America could do to take back Congress, make the CIA accountable, hold all meetings in public, and provide full transparency on funding? Ballot access. You, as a Republican or Democratic Party, do not have to allow people on your ballot who are not of your party and do not follow the Constitution. That is the definition of what a Democrat is for the Democratic Party or the Republican for the Republican Party. That will be one fell swoop. When you identify
the brain
on
implants.
the trial, you are then figuring out that they are not Republican. They are actually.
I've seen this a while ago.
Plutocracy. A plutocracy, the plutocrats are the billionaires that are dictating what they want. They don't want transparency in spending because then you would know all the businesses and hedge funds and military industrial complex spending and all the crazy programs.
Yeah, they've blocked me access at mindcontrolforums.com.
Has to happen, and that's where we're headed.
Blocking me access this. Mindcontrolforums.com and also .net is evidence what I found educateyourself.org before. Right, I'm going to screen share this instead.
State party chair of all 50 states and the 5 territories gather, and that vote will be a vote of whether or not America will succeed through the party apparatus and who betrays America. And a lot of those people,
this part she's talking about America, not
how
England.
they're on the hot seat, and it will be very painful for them if they don't get this right and clean it up because they enable the whole apparatus to fail. Anyone who says otherwise and have a
Right. You want to learn more about this black budget program? Okay. Right, we'll find it in your own server. So this is the war's website. Right. I can actually find the link, won't let me connect. So it's called Mind Control Forum, and when I try to click on it, it's just blocking me accessing it. USA Today, the Washington Post, USA Today, of course, in that news. Those entities failed to do investigations. We had others who investigated, others who did FOIA requests to the United States government ends up being out. The big boys are bought and sold to the hedge funds and owners and all it. So there's a direct website, you can click on it. Dr. Kirshner's presentation was brilliant about does the CIA actually fund the media and what apparatus allows that. We now know that the State Department enabled a system where our government, the State Department of all places, which obviously they had to hide it somewhere where Americans know, Americans who want to have science platforms, and they don't want to have psychological operations or disinformation. But the way the United States citizens pay to actually encourage and fund their own voice, that just make this absolutely unacceptable. So we have this media apparatus that has received funds. We want a full investigation into Jeff Bezos's purchase of the Washington Post. This is basically all about, you don't need all these wires, the implants technology.
is just where they want to upload the tracking of brain frequencies in the human body, implying to boost the brain, the neurons. And there's a developing treating people. They're promoting this as something good, and especially the future of AI. Within the games, users can control the gameplay. It's all about the mind. You won't need all these gadgets, laptops, phones, computers. It'll be by the mind. And the nanotechnology will be artificially. They have always been promoting this, but so they use individuals as test subjects all the time. So they're using all this information as something positive, but you just go and anybody in the target program worldwide. Other websites, forums you might be able to find. I've always been using like the network Neuralink is all part of this, the frequencies as well, with frequencies, electronic or electromagnetic fields.
One of the most daunting pieces that I started to see were people who were tracking us and certainly weaponized businesses. So we had our bank accounts canceled. I had my driving privileges canceled. I had my
Right now, I'm gonna
income taxes sent to the criminal
of the IRS. I love when they come after me. Bring it on. You just exposed yourself. Way to go. So we're super excited about that because we now know the infrastructure a whole lot better. So with the hedge funds and their orchestration, that's extremely out of control. So we'll be working on legislation with that. You're seeing many states pull out of BlackRock in their funding. We believe that the whole apparatus of the pension program has to be changed, and people can literally take their funds and invest it where they want and not in one entity that then dictates the stocks that they hold. They should be able to buy direct, and the power goes back to the people. Do not go into a fund and buy your stocks through them and give them any power and votes on how things go. We know why Disney is woke. We know why they're extraordinarily broken. They're now calling for gun control. That it will never happen in America. Those who come for guns in America have a new thing coming because our Second Amendment is cherished by Americans. A lot of people believe that there is dissension among Americans. It is not true. I don't need to run polls. I talk to my friends, my family, and everybody believes in truth, transparency, and that government is out of control and doing wasteful spending. And they are very irritated at this level with their elected officials. So it has become a very, very intense, and it's not going to get lighter until we see action from these elected officials. The blackmail and bribery issues must be treated as treason, and those bills must go into effect immediately. We believe a lot of the data banks have been in full use, and they one of our sources has explained that over 50% of the content in the data banks are information and videos of pedophilia. So the NIA affidavit, as I mentioned, has the money provision, pension revocation, and job termination and immediate arrest if they falsify the affidavit. So no more covering up for your buddy in the office. If you're in a department agency that you are witnessing corruption and you're fearful and it's your boss, it doesn't matter. Your neck is on the line. Treason is not acceptable in America, and so we're going to put that infrastructure in place. if someone wishes to be a whistleblower on government corruption, they should be heard, and we should be able to have press announcements. And so one of the things that we're calling is that the government, who continues to fund government television, broadcast TV through the public broadcast system, that system must turn on not news and woke agenda. It has to be an internal examination on full transparency on government, on providing evidence and information on these whistleblowers, allowing the whistleblowers to speak up, and there should be an open platform for that. The content by a public television is very different by a private entity. Private entities should not be dictated necessarily, but certainly if they're hijacked for nefarious purposes and it's actually a psychological operation or a disinformation, that is different than journalism. And that itself will need to be punished severely, because the betrayal of the American public is beyond just a slap on the hand. It should not be something that is just esoteric. This is very serious. And so same with the theft of a vote. What is the cost of a vote? It's our entire country. So this penalty must be swift and hard. And so for the people who provide evidence willingly, obviously the whistleblowers should be celebrated and are heroes. The people who are forced to do it through an affidavit program, that's really sad that we have to go to that level, because
right.
But I cannot sit idly by my family not going to lose my job while Joe is doing something corrupt that I witnessed and I didn't speak up. So I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to have that discussion with Joe, who's doing something very wrong.
Dark trace and cyber reasons. The intelligence front company seeking to subjugate the world with AI singularity. Meet two power cybersecurity companies riddled with American and British and Israel intelligence agents who plan to using AI technology to target foreign populations as well as their own. Article the 3rd of November 2022. Unlimited Hangout
Thanks so much, Maria.
website.
Have we got any good questions there to bring to Maria?
We've been dreaming a dream where you can float or glide across the dreamscape. This leads to the feeling of trepidation. I'll read that article later. Let's go back to the Zoom meeting.
So I can ask Maria with Dr. Krishnan's presentation, viewers, and the amount of the billions of dollars that spent on black budget operations by the CIA and all their affiliates. It probably filters into SIGINT and MI5 and MI6, as you were saying. What do you think about that? Is that something you were aware of, that Congress was passing all these black budget bills, that so much money is filtering out of the country without the knowledge of the public, really?
Great question. I will tell you, our source on one of our sources is on the shadow government infrastructure of the 38 members he says controls the world, and they use African platforms. If you all were interested in buying a country, I could get it for you 2 to 3 billion, and you can consider a president. That does occur in the world. I can tell you that the black budgets and the apparatus of the shadow government, because we've now had, it's shocking to me, Richard, that I have set our team out, and I asked everyone around the world to do this. Ask your elected officials at a public setting, is there a shadow government inside of our government? Because what I'm hearing is that the G20 conferences, which I've been to a World Leaders Conference, there are great parties. Well, there are after parties, and I'm grateful I never went to the after parties, the after parties. The word we have is that little boys, little girls, drugs, whatever they want, those world leaders have, and they get together and they decide, and this is the apparatus that has been described to me, they describe that they cut the deals on what the real infrastructure programs, it's mostly infrastructure based, programs that are coordinated through platforms in Africa. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Charlie Munger are three of the top people that they named that coordinate and actually dictate to the politicians, the Angela Merkels and the others. I am told that others include George Soros, Henry Kissinger, Rothschilds, and certainly there have been many questions about George Herbert Walker Bush and his involvement, as well as Dick Cheney and the apparatus that came out of, from what this source claims, he was actually hired prior to September 11th to do the infrastructure for September 11th, that they knowingly put together the apparatus in an African nation to be able to bridge that effort and move quickly to make that happen. So I believe when you understand that architecture and how the CIA works and fits into it, the CIA and State Department handle all movement of our dignitaries and our president. So when world leaders are meeting, they are integrally involved and they serve as a consultant to the shadow government. I have been told that there is a book, and I've read it actually, and I was told to read the book because of our investigation, and it's called Coup de 12 by Dr. David Martin. And I found it extraordinary because it totally corroborated the story of a former congressional member who said this apparatus existed, as well as this source that we have that was integrally involved in Africa. If it is true that the CIA was actually the backbone
Amita, right. This is where you can educate yourself. So, educate yourself. The cult of intelligence. Now, the origins of the function CIA. Now, it goes to what that guy originally said on the Zoom meeting. It's known as the CIA was created outset of the Cold War by Truman's National Security Act, 1947. That act was a response to Yatta and to the general fear that after World War II, the greatest threat to the world peace was the communist. Well, what's going on now? What they realise? The picture? They want to bring in the martial law. I've seen three movies. Recently, I haven't finished watching because it's in parts. Predicts China take over America. Yeah. And a common theme. And that was set in 1982, the movie. Yeah, and now we're 2022. For the child 25 to 3, I won't be that long. I'm absolutely exhausted by knowing what I know. Anyway, this is public knowledge, this website. There's nothing secret. The CIA was mostly formed out of, guess what? From Germany. OSS. Office of Static Services. Coordinated espionage. Intelligence activities against the Nazis. But, however, the anti-communism was an overreaching concern for the new agency. So they enlisted their old enemies against the previous allies, mainly former Nazi functionalities such as Richard Glenn, Gehlen, were enlisted by the CIA spy network in Eastern Europe. Now, the mission of the CIA was especially charged with the centralization and coordination of all data from the intelligence agencies of the government, namely associated with the branches of military. Yeah, after 1952, the National Security Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Resistance Agency, Intelligence Activities Automatic Energy Commission, State Department, Treasury Department, Justice Department. This is America, but also reference to England and different countries where you may live. when they have movies but showing the public James Bond movies or anything like that, the futuristic type movies, one needs to see where and why they need human test subjects for their technology, the brain interface. They're far advanced in technology than they are what they're letting on now to the public. Now, this section on this website you can read for oneself. MI6, MI5, GHQ, whatever that is really called, I can't remember now. They're all interlinked with business and commerce. And then you've got the world. It's more, very much more now. Interception. They don't need to just hack into your phones, put spyware, whatever, tracking devices, or your main internet. They can do it remotely, known as brain interface technology. And it's a bit like the futuristic movies, the technology sounds so far fetched. So when you're on this, so whoever put someone on a black international blacklist of targeted individuals is known as. Everything is blocked. Every type of services, everything is frozen. So employee status, trying to get a job, your banks. I mean, they robbed me of my bank card. They set me up with a robbery. Um, mail, my post is always missing. My meeting gets delayed. This is unlawful, by the way, but they don't care. Careers ruined, family life, you're isolated. There's a whole huge but people participate in the gang stalking program. Are ex-cons, ex-people that got in trouble themselves, and they train them up. It's well organised, satanic, demonic side of life. It really is. So they always telling the world what's going on in history to date, movies, TVs, videos, etc. And you have to be so damn careful what you say, what you do. Conte Pro, disinformation. So many wonderful people now are waking up spiritually. So one can see why I got into politics years ago beyond me. I tell you, I didn't know half of this years ago. I didn't know it's all interlinked. In England, Ministry Military of Defence is a limited company. Okay. I've got these printouts, I've got this evidence. They really do not want people to be informative. Now, if you research Manchurian Candidate and Mind Control Research, NK Ultra Project, I'm in that. My late mum was in that. My brothers and sisters were raised in that. I didn't know. And I didn't know how I was set up all of my life since I was roughly, I'm gone back and do my research from 18 years of age. I'm now in my 50s. So this is just wow kind of thing. And you would not believe it goes on if you just learn why television was invented, the telephone, telegraph, Tesla technology originally, you know, and the true origins of who you are, spirituality, the soul is so vitally important right now. So, of course, big pharma industry, corporations, no disrespect for those. If you want to research why future now uploading, Brian Chew's a really good YouTube channel and he zips it. He works as a private contractor. He knows how the neurocortex or the brain interface technology and the upload. These programs upload TV shows and other things like Amazon. I've seen shows. It is wow. It's like it's beyond virtual reality technology. You know,
was so stunned.
And yet, how do they profit? How do they use? How do they get away
Tossed out.
with? There isn't any justice. There isn't any remedy anymore. A lot of people have tried. Worldwide has tried. Yeah. Tried trafficking, whatever. I mean, there's nothing new. You look back from history, what do they do in history? So, try to make sure this doesn't happen, whatever country you live in, whatever it is. In May, under the influence of control the covert and higher the pyramid side of the country, but the higher you get in it's linked towards as well. So, and I'm going to go back.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes for that, right? For Dr. Bird.
Sorry. My question, thank you for the presentation, Maria. I'm totally on board to wake up very good. This is a very admirable goal, and I would like to ask you if in this process do you account mind control on the individual scale or the population scale? Because these are this is actually happening. This is no longer some kind of science fiction scenario. This is real, and also a deception type campaign that it has been automated and given the AI that sort of executes this kind of campaign. Does your organization, does it account for these processes? Does it account for these techniques? And if so, how are you going to address it?
So we held a conference over 4th of July weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. If you go to nationsinaction.org, look at the conference videos and you'll be looking specifically for James Martinez. He is the whistleblower on mind control from inside, where he was trained by one of the top people who started the MK Ultra program. And we were the first person he granted an interview with. He came and presented, stayed all 5 days at the conference, worked with the other media personalities that we had there, American Media Periscope, and our interviews with James. So we were helping get his message out. We want him to have to testify. He is willing to step up and be bold. He has had people around him, and he knows exactly what the stake is. He knows how far things are gone, and he understands things at a level that that would be imperative for the congressional members to understand, as well as the world. Yes, it is very much in our plan. We know what we are facing. We know how daunting it is. And that is part of the problem with dealing with the people in the party and in elected office, because they don't know they don't even know about MK Ultra, let alone if they were MK Ultra. That's how far gone we are. So by having that apparatus of the performance appraisal, the citizens who do understand and have not been MK Ultra and understand what should take place, they now have checklists. And if that person's not performing for whatever reason, good, bad, or ugly, you just still have to move them aside, take them out of that power position. Do not let them on your ballot, or do not let them be in a party leadership position. So that is exactly why that apparatus, a lot of people ask us about our programs, and a lot of people come to us, you need to adopt our program. And I'm like, love brainstorming on programs. But I always have to ask, what is the end result? If our goal is to take back government, you have to start in these apparatuses and with these programs, because it's very difficult to break through something so daunting as this. So by pulling out the elected officials and coordinated, we've been beta testing these programs. So we knew the performance appraisal with the trial. Once you do a trial in their district, they're not happy, and they're not happy when you invited their donors and their voters. And then you take the video you did and you chop it into campaign ads, and we actually start educating, and in a systematic way, educating and teaching the citizens in his district what he did, and more importantly, what he didn't do and what he didn't say. And if any elected official in America does not say there's a shadow government and we don't know where the money is and we need full transparency and we're going to pass a transparency act, if they're not saying that, they need to go, because it's too late. They had the chance. The litmus test was there. They failed. So that's kind of where we're at, if that makes sense.
Yes, I will try to get in touch with James Martinez. Thank you.
And I'm happy to connect you. And also, I was thinking through your presentation, and I think it was so great in the exposure and the way you're exposing this, because if a congressional hearing were to take place, and I would highly recommend that you get with Ron Johnson, senator out of Wisconsin, and also Rand Paul, and build the apparatus. What we have to have, what we need, is a structured committee that actually has presentations similar to the way this was structured, presentations from experts who understand the different pieces and they build off of each other. Your presentation was fabulous because you gave facts, you gave evidence, you have doctors. I have a lot more questions. I do wonder about the targeting, why you, and why, is it something you're doing? We're targeted for many, many reasons, because we're trying to expose them and some of the activities we worked on. So we know that different people are going to be targeted for different reasons. And that helps us if someone starts mapping out each of the sadly, the people who've had this happen, like in your situation, and we start tracking who they are, what were they working on, what was so significant that they were trying to stop you, because that's where we're at. JP Morgan Chase tried to stop me. PayPal canceled me, tried to stop me. IRS coming after me. That's a weaponized government. And all of that happened, many of the items all happened within like just weeks of each other. That means a memo went out from someone high up in the shadow government going, time to take Maria and Nations in Action down. No, it's so visible. So by building that apparatus with the dates and the times and the significance of those events is critical, but so valuable to congressional staff who are putting these committee hearings together. So I'd be thrilled to help consult, and Nations in Action wants truth and transparency. I'm happy to help and work with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Zach. And the tip is visibility, everybody. And Richard will be introducing Dr. Ashton Stuckelberger. And I'll hold all the questions. I'm keeping tabs, so don't worry, everybody.
Thanks, Iris. And thanks, Maria, for such an energetic and heartfelt presentation. Really appreciate it. It was hanging on every word there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And so now we have Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger. So Dr. Astrid is a PhD private docent at the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Geneva and Lausanne. She's visiting professor across Europe, top Swiss researcher and teacher since 20 years with pioneering work with the WHO, the United Nations, and the EU, requires her expertise for different programs.
Be careful
For
about
example,
this.
IHR, SDH, Innovate, HIAP, ERC, and GINA. Astrid carried out extensive research and exposed huge anomalies and irregularities in how the COVID pandemic, and how it was handled, and what's actually in the vaccines and why everyone is being forced to take them. She reveals some of the true operations behind the scenes in relation to the pandemic and calls for investigations into illegal operations of the United Nations and the WHO. So, hello, Astrid, are you there with us?
Yeah, I thought I was the last one. I wasn't quite ready. Now I'm just pulling up my PowerPoint.
Just because you're a
Give me
doctor
minute.
doesn't mean anything.
Just here it is. So many open to take everything out.
Take your time, no worries. I think we're running ahead of schedule, really, so not a problem. And yeah, we're just going to have the round table discussion after this, where we just get all the speakers together, just for a little chat
They're
of
not
the
experts.
presentation, and
They
hopefully
just got
some
experience.
solutions. And obviously, anybody else who would like to ask the speakers questions that we haven't had an opportunity to do throughout the presentation, we might be able to do that just after Astrid's presentation.
He's a
Okay, I
minor.
will open mine
She's
completely.
in Switzerland.
Make a mistake. Okay, so let me pull it up.
Dr. AST. What's she looking at? She's looking at the United Nations, the
see it?
CEO system for worldwide information.
Yeah, Astrid, yeah, I've got your, yeah, we can see your
Okay.
presentation there.
Total
Sorry for
information
that.
control,
Okay, let me
lifting the
just
veil
pull it up
democracy.
with
EU
the
correlation.
screen is full of things in front of me.
She's got a PhD
Okay.
in what?
Okay, very good. Let me get myself out of the way. Okay, so I'm here to present to you maybe something a little bit different, but I think it's complementary and will give another perspective on total control of information, but also of human health, of humanity, and everything I'm going to say has proof behind, so I cannot just follow the expertise and my but I have done reports for different courts, tribunals in the world, and etc. So let me go ahead. So the idea, okay, I do something here. Okay, good. So I called it like that, the word grab for total information control and human control, to make sure that we don't talk only about information, but we take a human-centered approach. And I have distinguished two levels, but they are entangled. Is the policy level, at the level which I know best, is the United Nations, and I called it CO because United Nations company. I want everybody to understand that. I will explain. And then the scientific level, from macro to micro, because you can go to WHO, but I really want to address, and we talked with Magnus about this, I want to address this whole problem of what is the content of the vials and this experimental vaccination, even though I could not have time to put and pull out all the reports and all the evidence with pictures and lab results. But that's where I want to go. Also, and then some solutions, you know, it's such a huge situation that I think it will take another level to find a real solution. So policy level, those who don't understand, I will try and go back to the basics. The policy level is a world grab of the United Nations through WHO. This is why I'm going to explain two mechanisms. First, the United Nations, because the United Nations is a world government. Actually, it is the best, monopoly game they have put in place since the First World War. They did Société des Nations, the Society of Nations, which was built in Geneva. The doors still have the logo STN, Society of Nations, and it was built with the very famous Freemason societies from Scotland and other friends, etc. So history behind this. And I put that in context because what you will see is that after the Second World War, first there was only a nation. After the Second World War came all the structure of WHO and the preparation of this grab of through an emergency law of all our constitutions. So let's go. Okay, page down. Oh, I have difficulties. Oh, okay, right. Page first. That's very important. You can get this graphic by just typing United Nations system, and you look PDF mapping, and then you will find it. It's extremely important to understand this because the United Nations is normally it is all member states coming together, which all our countries, with all our constitution, come together to meet every year in New York in September for the General Assembly of the United Nations with all the presidents, prime ministers, or whatever, and they decide of the future of the world through agendas 2030, but not only every single one of those agencies has an agenda and has a plan. So it's plans of plans coming to the General Assembly. You see on the left of the screen, General Assembly. Who is directing the General Assembly is the Secretary General Guterres, who formerly was the head in Geneva of the Office High Commissioner of Refugee. And refugees today are not sure they are refugees or if they're not Nazis, outsourced from Ukraine. So if I can speak about this, it's because I have been for more than 30 years in and out the UN, either as an expert, either hired as contract, either organizing events with NGOs, science, and the United Nations. And I have met all those people and many of those agencies in New York, in Vienna, and in Geneva. And I was accredited at the United Nations since '99 with the academic NGOs, and then as an expert. So this is why I have taken this as my new university 30 years ago, not knowing that this was going to bring me to talk to you about this and how important it is to understand this system. So I have made the circles here a bit elaborate so you understand. In green,
headquarters Geneva and Switzerland,
in the
World
United
Health
Nations, which means the
Organization.
General Assembly is very closely related to the Security Council. As you know, there are only about 5-6 huge countries directing
Just talking about.
what the UN is really doing, and the Secretary General is just playing the chairman or president. But the Security Council is deciding for all the bioweapons convention with all the technology bioweapon. We should actually stop talking just of bioweapons. We should talk of biotech weapons, nanotech weapons. And all this is you can see that they're hiding a lot of stuff in the Security Council, but they're taking decisions for the rest of the world because
She's looking at the policy
they are
system.
deciding for the whole system you see in front of you. So the first thing you have to understand is Secretary
Human Settlements Program.
Security Council is directing the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court and the Nuremberg Code that was taken back into the UN at a certain point after the Second World War, when they didn't arrest the real perpetrator of the Second World War. Then you have the Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights that is down below in green with all the nice values, the good things in the name of human rights, in the name of equality, in the name of doing good, of peace, etc. And actually, I see today that the reverse values have been put in place. The good values have been turned over like a crap into bad values. And in that context, there are things on peace. In the name of peace, they are perpetrating war and keeping on, humanitarian operation, which are more, NGOs that make business. We call them the bingos, the business interested NGOs. And with that, there's also the disarmament conference in Geneva. So Geneva has more operations and more meetings than in New York or anywhere in the world. So that's in green. So you understand that all the judicial system is actually in the hands of those people, and you cannot really do anything unless somebody does a reservation on a document, which happened with the WHO, for example, and I will talk about that. So in green is the legal system. I don't have much time, so I'm not going to go too far into that. Then in red is everything related to health, and I mean we can put much more because health is in everything. It is in refugees and health, migrants and health, international trade of health goods, in the UNICEF for children, even in the food program and agriculture for validating what is healthy or not, in the ILO for the labor office to know if the Minister of Health and the Minister of Labor have looked at safe work and healthy work. So really, health is the entry point for all those issues. And now we understand why it's through WHO. In blue is things that are related to information. And this is why it's important to understand that the information that is now coming out of the loudspeaker of the United Nations from any government CEO, I think we should say that, because you know that every country, and I discovered that with Jerry Minell in South Africa, that South Africa was registered in New York as a company. That Switzerland has been registered 3 or 4 times as a company enterprise in Brussels, and every country actually has been registered somewhere as a country. You can look under sec.gov and looking into that, and even some of your American universities have legal texts about that. So in blue, it's the information system. There is a General Assembly, and the Secretary General has a Department of Public Information. So and it is below in the yellow arrow on the department and offices. You can't see it you can see it up there. Then you have statistics of the official of communication or the secretariats, but the most important I think to see here is on the far right is the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, and you have to know that this it's in Geneva also. And I think of this because my first specialty during the 10 first years was on aging, and I did a lot with WHO. I was part of the expert group, aging, active, healthy aging. Even Ilona Kirkbusch, who's today, carving this new pandemic grab on the world, was there. So I know a lot of people who are today, I recognize them in front of me, and I know why they did what they did. But the ITU has something very interesting. They organize big conferences. Big conferences are preparation to get all the ministers of health, of technology, of this, of that together for the same agenda. This has been starting to be carved 20 years ago. So in 2002, 2004, there were 2 sections of a big conference called WISES, the World Information Society Conference, World International Society Conference. And I was in charge to do the ICT for the information, communication, telecommunication for development. One part of the panels for the NGOs, the private sector and science, with a team that was in Geneva in 2004, and the rest was in Tunisia. And I saw there that the ministers of telecommunication were there present, and I was taking care of Mali and of Libya, so I met them because they were on the panels. So this has been carving up that technology was grabbing the world in not only in innovation, but in the communication efficiency. So this UN system, and I know that at the head of ITU today are 3 Chinese, at least, and it's illegal to have more than 2 in governance.
principle
So I cannot go
origins.
further, but go and look at this World Society Information, World Summit for Information Society, the WSIS, and they're talking of cyber attack. I was invited to be on a panel last year on cyber security and seniors. So this is a topic very important, very hot, but you have to know that everything you see in a government is linked to this family company with the private sector, because you don't see here, but in 99, Kofi Annan pulled in the Global Compact, a big chunk with all the private sector contributing to the United Nations, of which Gavi with Bill Gates, of which Coca-Cola, of which, there were a lot of polemics from the ILO because you cannot have people who use children for work, and etc. So you see, I could speak a lot on this, but I don't. We cannot spend too much time. So what I did now that you see what is going on, as an overview, you need to understand, and I have data behind everything here. There has been a big information system control strategy, which went through WHO, ITU, UN government world under World Emergency Law. Actually, thanks to the emergency law of WHO, they managed to put a legal framework to say the countries that in the constitution or in the legal.
Stop harassing me flying over this bloody flat, you bloody perps. The
a little paragraph that the revised
It's
constitution
a
just
helicopter. It's not a helicopter flight path.
WHO
At 3:30 in the afternoon
in case
in
of
England.
emergency law because of national security or whatever. So I can really see two phases. The first phase was really to create fear, human
Yeah.
heart, emotional
go.
fear,
Oh
because
my
it puts down
gosh.
your immunity and it makes you obey and be controlled. So this was, I have made it for the media. The media shaped a deadly virus with absolutely no
Hold on.
scientific evidence.
I've got to mute
The virus has
this.
to this date not been isolated according to the postulate of Koch,
I've got to
which
stop sharing
requires
this.
4 things: an isolation. You take pictures, you can see, you isolate.
Right. For the record, correction. Don't know what that individual was trying to imply. Just showing you a document what United Nations is meant to be, what it is. Documents. This is a general document. Main origins of United Nations. So somebody might want to know what they do. UN main is below. She was employing directly at UN security organizations, whatever that was meant to be. I've left that meeting for the moment. Chief Executive Boards. Hierarchy on the program, high level committee on management. And be ready people to go and read up about it. So, to stop sharing that. So, educateyourself.org is the website. Worldwide TI program, basically. She was going into quite a bit, and I don't believe some of the information. Is that factual? Weather's changing, by the way. I said, I'm gonna. This was the Zoom meeting of some people invited to do certain topics on the target program solutions, but others, they were commenting in the chat, wow, I'm just going to screen share about change the subject to the weather. So I might delete this after. I might just do that to sort of share the weather. Look at the two white sun exposures. We've never had that before. The water, extremely large. This is Weymouth Harbour in England, South England. Wow. There's like two suns, white reflections. Let's go back in the camera. Wow, that's massive. That's very large. I'm going to go back and follow this. There's no timestamp I can see. This is really large. There's like comets. I'm changing subject to weather, by the way. Comets, Nibiru system. It's bouncing off the cars. Wow, it's extremely large. Reflections on the water. Oh my gosh. Gosh, there's a lot of comets in the skies. It's very cold out there, I'm staying put. There's a lot of comets and Nibiru systems in the sky. So I was just covering that and show. One wants to watch live weather cameras that are available depending where you live, I suppose. Wow, look at that one. This is live weather camera in Scotland right now. There's two comets in that reddish orangey cloud. I'm going to listen to this privately. Gotta leave that for 5 minutes. What I've got to do. Okay. next week hold all different events. Stop reaching 1 degree minus 10
But even where there's water, because rain is sleep, the rain for southeast Scotland, the winds change slightly by Saturday. Sunday,
There's a comet in the middle. That's meant to be sunset, and that's a comet.
There's the risk of freezing fog patches, both on Saturday morning and Sunday.
This is what UK's on this. Amazing. Let's go out -4, -3, and -5. Morning hours. So tomorrow morning. and product cost.
Nice to make that
Yeah, that's support. Day support of food deliveries. The weather gets us back. Look at these temperatures dropping. These are really bad temperatures. I'm gonna check my phone. I'm gonna leave this. These are comments now. Oh, it's cold. Oh my God. Right, describe where the cameras can night charge and sensitive. Autumn fast. Very fast watch. The sun has already happened at 10 to 4. What is the extra light? Down the left side of the screen at the top, the vortex clouds against the rain. It's very much like integrating my car. I think he's in Croatia. He has a channel, covers the subject in Hebrew, wolrd, comets, planet X system. What you're seeing in the sky is the lower edge on the live camera. This is not the natural sun setting, I repeat, because it should be just one ground. Natural sun is not, which is widespread. Right, disclaimer earlier, about MI5, MI6 worldwide. Gosh, it's very cold, by the way. Feels like -4. I've got so much blankets and covers, windows from there. Cold, really cold as it's really plain windows. It's very expensive all today. And then my gas and electricity, both, they work out that much better than we and then the months. Let's see. The UK mainstream broadcast. You can see now it's been UK mainstream broadcast, correct? I can't tell there's anything else, isn't it? Like some snow, that part. This is what I'm Wow, bright red. Bright high. The Hebrew comet, the planet X system, right behind. Now it's changed colour. I'm pulling out the camera. Now the camera doing that. It's false eyes behind it. Now it's white. Okay, so I'm going to end this stream now. And signing out for now, because I've got to get warm. So for now, educateyourself.org, the top of the website of the mind brain interface subject and what they're doing if you want to know more. Right. Signing out.